alive.
と戦って当に一つも勝ち目はねえ。俺たちは百姓だ。戦の仕方なんか知らねえ。侍やとだ。
金にも出世にもならん。侍を2人3人集めても背にはつかん。司法に備えるだけでも4。小詰めに2名。足を入れて7。
しかし戦は結構乗りかする方で。
それはこちらが一人もやれん時の話だ。待て！さあ一人だけでするものではない。
明日みんな死ぬんだぜ。
人を守ってこそ自分も守れる。己のことばかり考える奴は己をも滅ぼす奴だ。やろう、消えた。
In a time when honor and courage were the last defense against chaos, a desperate village plagued by ruthless bandits seeks salvation from an unlikely band of heroes, 7 warriors bound by fate. Starring Gregory Peck as the wise and noble Kambei, Marlon Brando as the fiery and brash Kikuchiyo, and James Dean as the spirited young Katsushiro, this epic tale of sacrifice and brotherhood comes to life in breathtaking Super Panavision 70. Opposing them, Robert Ryan delivers a chilling performance as the cunning bandit leader, with Lee Marvin and Ernest Borgnine as his brutal henchmen. Featuring Montgomery Clift as the soulful Gorobe and Burt Lancaster as the stoic Heihachi, Seven Samurai weaves a timeless saga of valor, loyalty, and the ultimate fight for freedom. Relive the power and glory of Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece, reimagined for the golden age of cinema, where every frame is a masterpiece and every moment a legend.
Toronto, Cannes, Berlin, and Sundance, everybody chat about good movies, chat about good movies, chat about good movies, good movies, good movies. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Good Movie Chat About, where we chat about, we have good chats about, we just got, wait, I forget what that is. Oh no, I just realized what's happening. This is I forgot I had another thing on this playlist. Please excuse. That's supposed to be for the end. Oh boy. Alright. I'm gonna start again. Everybody forget that happened. Pretend this went really smoothly. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Good Movie Chat About, where we have good chats about good movies with good guests. I'm Lord Gugu, aka Bobby. Feel free to, either one is fine. It's cool. Hello. If you are so inclined, please feel free to subscribe. I have really great emotes, I think, but also, it's fine. Thank you for hanging out. And today, I am thrilled to be joined by one of the funniest dudes around, and the amazingly talented and hilarious streamer, musician, fleets curator, retro game show enthusiast, and guy she let go to the movie. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Big Howell Dawdy. Howell, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, hello everybody. Hi Bobby, how's it going?
Great to have you. Let me make sure I got your audio. I think I might have it set for Stefan levels.
Stefan level.
That means too low. Actually, he's usually loud,
right.
So never mind. I think I fucked that up. How are you doing today, Howell?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about Seven Samurai. It's everything is
yeah.
It's peachy over here. Beautiful day outside.
Nice. And you're in Kentucky, right?
Brew.
Your old Kentucky home.
Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Where you at?
Howell is still quiet. I am in Maryland. I am just outside of the DC area. Howell, can you talk now and see if people can hear you a little better?
Yeah. Also, let me check and see. It's possible my settings are weird.
That's got to be a little better.
Check.
How's he?
Let's see here. Well, my output's looking.
Here, I think you should be good. I'll kick you up a little bit too here. Okay. Howell, before we talk about the movie, we have some business that we like to talk about here. So first of all, concessions. Do you have any concessions right now? Do you have like water? What you got right now for this movie chat?
Oh, just cold brew. Just grab some cold brew.
I have some iced tea. I gave up sugary beverages this week. We're gonna see how it goes.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. That can really be losing a beverage can be traumatic, I think, for years and years and years.
Well, I was really good about it for a while.
Tough to overcome not having a beverage anymore. It sucks.
Yeah,
really
I became like just a water guy for a while, and it was great. Ooh. And then just started reintroducing, sodas were like, if I'm eating fast food, if I'm going to the movies, yeah, I'll have a soda. But then I started reintroducing them to my own home and things, and they're sodas. It's a controversial statement. They're good. They're tasty, and I like them. So it's tough.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I'm pretty good at maintaining control around a soda in the home. I don't. My wife drinks sodas in the home.
I mean, I was like one a day. Like that'll be good.
Ginger ale. Occasional ginger ale, I will take a little sip of, but other than that, it is really just a fast food thing for me. It's like, or you know, if I'm out and it's hot outside or I'm traveling or something, you know, if I want to have a Coke,
yeah,
I'll have a Coke.
Full sugar like Coke in a can. I mean, I will say, so speaking of fast food, I went and got McDonald's, $5 meal deal, during the week for lunch, and this was after I had sworn off soda. So I was like, and the other problem is that I hate diet sodas. I hate like the aspartame aftertaste of like Diet Coke and Diet, but I have been enjoying the Coke Zeros, so I got a Coke Zero at the McDonald's. And that was the biggest disappointment of having a Coke Zero instead of the regular Coke I've experienced yet. Like, canned Coke Zero I'm good with, but the McDonald's Coke is so much better than the McDonald's Coke Zero. It was a big letdown, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
I think it actually helps me not get addicted to regular full sugar sodas that I was for a long time addicted to Diet Coke. Mm-hmm. That helped, I think, because they're not going to take the place of diet. Like I'll drink I'll drink a regular full sugar Dr. Pepper is like probably the most common thing that I drink. Because it's like the weirdest flavor. It's like the weirdest soda flavor.
Yeah, it's its own flavor, right?
Yeah,
it's Dr. Pepper
weird flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Diet Coke or a Mexican Coke, that's those two
Careful.
I could
careful around
the
Mexican
you gotta
Coke.
be careful around it. You gotta be careful around those for sure.
Yep. Well, Hal, I don't know when you watched the movie we're going to be discussing in a few minutes here, but what was the last movie you watched? And if it was that, what was the last one before that? Was it on movie night? Or even what was the last movie you watched for yourself that wasn't for content?
God, let me think. What's the last movie I watched? So this week, I'll tell you, I think I know everything I watched this week. And the movie night movie, which I will remember in just a minute when my brain remembers what the movie was.
I think I even watched some of it, but it doesn't retain.
It was a kids movie. Oh, it was a Steve Guttenberg family film. Kathleen Quinlan, Steve Guttenberg.
Oh.
It felt like a Disney movie. It felt like
Zeus and something.
And it was called Zeus and Roxanne.
Oh, okay.
Zeus and Roxanne, and it was supposed to be, it was sort of sold to us as a story about a dog that falls in love with a dolphin. But it turns out it's a movie about Steve Guttenberg falling in love with Kathleen Quinlan. It's not, it's nowhere near what you wanted out of that movie, though it does have the best opening sequence I've ever seen in a film, and also a really, really great sequence where a dog rides a dolphin in the ocean, and a dolphin saves a dog from a shark.
That's exactly what you want out of a movie night movie, is moments like that. That's what you're really looking for.
It absolutely paid for its ticket price there. The other movies I didn't watch. Let's see. I obviously watched Seven Samurai this week in two parts. I did split it up at the intermission.
That's good.
And then I watched the new season of the Rehearsal.
Oh yes.
The other thing that I watched.
Yes, I've been watching that.
Up to now. Mm-hmm. Up to this week, and then the only other movie I think I watched this week is on Ash's stream on Video Hell System. I watched La Ceremony. I think it was what it was called.
I have not heard of that one.
A really, really, really good movie. A French like thriller about a like kind of troubled maid and her annoying friend.
Oh, Isabelle Huppert, Jacqueline Bisset. Yeah. Okay,
it's really good. It's really, really good.
Oh yeah, Jakey Chains knows that one, of course. Jakey's very knowledgeable about movies. Jakey also wanted to report, I don't know if you saw this in the chat, that earlier today Justin said Howell Dawdy.
Huh.
And then
Okay.
Jakey said in the chat, hoot hoot, that is funny. That's funny.
Very, very funny. Also, an acceptable pronunciation of my name. You know, I have British friends, so I have to allow.
Yeah,
for
that's a
people to
Cockney.
say-
Yeah, that's how. Speaking of movies, Eliza Doolittle from My Fair Lady would say
And
it.
My Fair Lady,
Owl
yeah,
Dawdy, owl, owl. Sorry.
Owl.
Um,
Owl Dawdy.
So I actually movies that I watched this week. Actually, the most recent movie that I watched yesterday, because I was really curious about it, because there was a documentary about this that I had watched, and I'm wondering if you have watched this or are going to or aware of this movie, and it's The Luckiest Man in America. Do you know this movie?
I'm not familiar with it. No.
So it's a new movie starring Paul Walter Hauser, and it's based on the real guy who basically totally fucked over the what's the game with the no whammies? Is that Match Game?
Oh, no, it's called
Press Your Luck.
Press Your Luck. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So it's Michael, what's his name, who the character's name who
Paul Walter Hauser is the guy from
Richard Jewell and
Richard Jewell. Yeah,
and
Richard
Tanya, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's really great. My wife was talking about how she always likes him in things because he reminds her of DB, and we love DB, and we're always just like, oh, it's DB. It's just like,
I mean, he would be a great pick to portray DB
in a movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He was also wasn't he in? He was in that the I Think You Should Leave sketch where
Right.
it's like he disrespects his wife for a moment or whatever. That's a really
well,
he's really
and
well
also
cast in
the
that,
guy
right?
who gets right, who feels really bad for disrespecting
Feels really
his,
bad
for saying
for
something bad about his
momentarily
wife,
say something.
who
Like, trying to just,
protected his honor when his community theater glory was stolen by Jamie Taco. Yeah. And he was a juggalo on Sunny.
I forgot some of the essential lore to that sketch, but I do love how sensitive he is in that role.
He's a really interesting actor. He's a funny guy.
I'm definitely gonna watch the.
I thought it was
Luck
just
movie.
okay, but it was. I mean, it has a crazy cast. Walton Goggins plays the host. I forget the host's name. Peter Tomarken. Does that name mean anything to you, Howell?
I mean, I've watched Press Your Luck. I've watched it on stream. It's not one of my favorite game shows, and I don't have any.
Well,
I did watch I watched on YouTube. I watched a documentary about the guy who won the
right, and the whole reason he was able to do it is because they only had 5 patterns that they would cycle through, so he just memorized those and could always land on take another spin and win $5,000 or whatever.
Yeah, it is funny that they went with kind of it's I guess when you're dealing with a big mechanism like that's a bunch of different lights and a bunch of different screens and stuff, it's easier to program patterns than it is to have some kind of randomizer built in. But it is funny that they just had the pre-programmed it's
the early 80s, so it's very analog. Anyway, I thought that one was just okay. Last other recent movies I watched the documentary on the Goofy movie, which, I mean, I kind of am the exact right age, sort of. If I was any older, I probably would. But I also used to babysit my cousins, and I would always be like, "Let's watch. You guys like Goofy movie? We're gonna watch it." But it was I was picking it up for myself, kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm too old for Goofy movie.
Yeah, that makes. I mean, that tracks. I think it's an interesting documentary still about just sort of the creative process and how and it's an interesting era in Disney as well, because they were sort of a Katzenberg project, and then so a lot of what they were doing was catered directly to what Jeffrey Katzenberg wanted, and then Jeffrey Katzenberg got fired the year that they were supposed to release or something, and so it was just fighting uphill, but then it over time has gotten a sort of built a real following of the kids that were the right age, and now they watch it with their kids and stuff, type of thing.
Yeah, but it did feel like something that I didn't hear anybody. I certainly never heard anybody my age talk about it, and then it was one of those things where you start gradually seeing more and more references to it and things, and you're like, okay, so I guess this was a touchstone for people younger than me, but I don't even remember it at the time.
Yeah, because what it was that it wasn't a big success theatrically, and critics hated it, which to me seems kind of insane. That like
they said it was weirdly goofy.
Yeah, no, literally there were people that were like, it's too goofy.
It's too goofy.
But also I mean, there is a bit of like, I think their main gripe with it is that there is a bit of a stylistic mismatch between wanting to do lots of goofy things, and then the whole like story is about him also wanting to get closer to his son, and like so wanting to portray a sort of sweet father-son relationship, and then also have like, you know, him hurt himself while fishing or whatever. Like you want to hit both. So, but then it was a huge hit on VHS. Because this was also the era where Disney was like, crank them out, on sell them as many as we can on VHS, the direct to VHS sequels and all this kind of stuff. And so yeah, it became a huge hit on VHS. Was where it was people really watched. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else recent that...
That's good. I should probably watch the documentary and then watch the Goofy movie.
That would be... I'd be interested what that experience is. I mean, neither of these movies, I would say, run out and go see them. I mean, I enjoyed the Goofy movie, but I don't think that that's necessarily for everybody. But even that, I was like, you know, I'm looking at my Letterboxd here. It's 3.5 stars on the Goofy... on Not Just a Goof was the name of the documentary.
Not Just a Goof.
Anyway, so, and now, before we talk about the movie, I like to, you know, delay that as long as possible for some reason. What are you looking forward to watching soon, like coming up? You know, is there like anything coming to theaters, or even just like for fun, like that you've been having fun watching and you want to watch more of some whatever type of movie?
Well, you know, this is an easy answer to drop right now, but you know, you asked, when you asked me to come on here, you were like, do you have any blind spots? And I immediately was like, well, Kurosawa, of course.
Are you blind spot for all of Kurosawa or just Seven Samurai?
I've seen Rashomon.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And what's the, let's see, I think, is it I think, yeah, okay, yeah, I saw Yojimbo at one point.
Yojimbo, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've definitely seen this one, but and what was funny was, and so Kurosawa, yes, I need to watch all of them basically, and
a lot of bangers in there for sure.
Let's see, upcoming movies that I'm excited about. Don't know.
Are you a Mission Impossible guy at all?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I did think, I don't know. I thought 3 through 5 were really good.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel kind of a same thing with Fast and the Furious. I feel it's kind of like they're trying to amp it up to a big finale or whatever, and I'm like, you know, I don't expect this to be as good as it was 3 movies ago. So I'll definitely go see it. I'll definitely see it, and I'm sure I will enjoy it. But the last one, I was a little bit.
I mean, I've loved all of them up until the most recent one, which I still had a lot of fun with. I went and saw it in a 4DX screening with the seats that move around, and I remembered going to this theater to see movies. Like I specifically, one of my best movie theater experiences was I saw Mad Max Fury Road for the first time in the 4DX. This
4DX,
yeah, wow. This theater, and it was incredible. It was so good, and so I was like, yeah, this will be really fun for like all the stunts in Mission Impossible, and like that was 10 years ago, and it was 10 years of disrepair basically, and the seats were like so jerky. It was not a smooth experience. It was not as fun, and the movie was like. That movie was too long, and also that was the year of part ones, or like around that era of like part 1, and that's like, don't deliver me half a movie unless like
that is so annoying.
That one annoyed me less than the Spider-Man, but yeah, that's like make a whole movie.
Yeah, it felt like those all happened at the same time, where it's the Spider-Man one, the Fast and the Furious one, which I didn't know until it was like. I was sitting there, I was like, damn, I've been here for 2.5 fucking hours. And then I'm thinking, they're not, wait a minute, there can't be like a bomb thing going, right? Like, they're like racing out the clock. And I'm like, this movie's got to end. What's happening? And then I didn't even know until that last moment of the movie that they were continuing it on for a whole other movie, and that happened. I think the same thing happened with the Mission Impossible one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and it felt like those three all happened at the same time.
Well, because I think that both of those franchises, right, Fast and Furious and Mission Impossible, really thrive on each movie being its own adventure, and they can incorporate these characters from the past and new ones and things like that, but like the adventure itself is going to be generally self-contained. And it's trying to this era of like making it the interconnected franchise, and it's like you don't have to be so interconnected. Like it probably works better for your movies to be standalone.
I think there is a and I feel there is kind of a I don't know what's going on exactly that has made everything feel like everyone's just trying to keep as many plates spinning as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it feels like there's a dearth of stories that are self-contained, short, simple, and just you enjoy the one outing, and it doesn't try to get you to just keep. And I don't know if this is like aftermath of
Marvel,
like MCU stuff, Avengers type shit. It probably is. I mean, they're like, okay, that's how you make money is you keep people coming to a franchise. But it's also like affected television in a way where it's harder to find a TV show where you can just enjoy an episode of it. And I really, this was one of my main gripes about Severance was it feels like the plate spinning parts of Severance are they're not going to resolve in a satisfactory way. I don't think, which doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, no show like that ever ends in a satisfactory way. And it's still, you can still have fun along the way, but like I just wish there were more standalone episodes that were by themselves good for Severance. As much as I love the cast, as much as I love sort of how it looks and how it feels in there, it's like I just wish it was more like The Prisoner or something. I wish there were more episodes where it was just started out and and Adam Scott just goes into the office and something weird happens and there's like a unique event over the course of the day. That is what I.
And maybe there's like a tag in there or something that's an overarching thing, but like the main focus of the episode is making it an entertaining episode on its own.
Absolutely. And there's so many different like things they could do, things they could like explore inside what the premise of the show was that you fell in love with, which was this weird office relationship between this like very specific cast. And just to have them all by the middle of season 2 to have them all in different places on the globe running around having and he's on a Mission Impossible adventure himself and you're like, Jesus Christ, dude, just like I don't know, the show show had more potential with its initial premise. I thought.
I mean, I've had a lot of frustration with the influence of prestige TV, and I loved it like at the peak prestige TV era. Like I was big, you know, Mad Men, Breaking Bad,
Mad Men was awesome.
All those,
Mad Men was great.
But then, like,
I do think. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
I was kind of headed towards this, but I do think Breaking Bad was the MCU effect on television, where it convinced a bunch of writers that the only way to write a show was to throw a bunch of stuff up into the air and just try to keep everything from hitting the ground at the same time. And you're like, you start something and you go and you go and you go and you go and you go. Yeah. But sorry.
No, and Better Call Saul was very much the same way too, because that would have also these like framing like scenes and stuff that were supposed to be like way in the future or like way, and so you were always kind of and I mean those are like cool for their own thing, but again, like the influence is like, I don't think movies should try to be TV, and I don't think TV should try to be movies, and so like a TV show, I mean, for me, and I'm a movie supremacist all the way, like I think movies are better than TV. There's TV that I love, but I always say that even the best episode of TV, you're watching somebody's like job, because they are, I mean, even if they're so passionate about it, they believe in the show, they love it, there's still like this structure that they have to, that are like based on a bunch of strictures that are just totally arcane and just like because that's what a TV show is or whatever. I didn't watch it, but
I think that's actually something I've never thought about before. But that's a good point and a good way to think about it. You're watching a good episode. Yeah, that's totally right. And funny, it's a movie has a potential to be like a great album. Like
Right.
It has the potential to be something that somebody made.
And it's like encased in amber, just like a really good album, right? Like then that's somebody's full statement that they like like beginning to end they were gonna make. And there are like really good miniseries that do this and stuff like that. And I think that there's some TV shows that it works for, but I do agree. I miss like, I'm a big Columbo.
In a very rare situation you can get there with a TV show, but it has to be somebody has to be given the opportunity to do that on TV.
And
so more
also,
often than not, it's like the difference between an album and like somebody's radio show or like a, that's a great way to think about it.
I would argue that
I think I entirely agree with that.
A lot of what caused Mad Men and Breaking Bad and The Sopranos to stand out was because the rest of the TV landscape was like, West Wing and Desperate Housewives or whatever, like, which that's those types of shows like soap operas and that type of stuff.
Stupid crap, bunch of trash.
Well, I mean, West Wing is crap. I actually watched a really good YouTube video recently. This guy, Skip Intro, he does a really good hour-long. I mean, it's a really good. He's doing a whole series, and he just released the first chapter of Taking Down the West Wing, and it's really fun to beat up on the West Wing. It does suck.
I never was a West Wing guy, but
to give you a sense of like the sort of tone and the politics of the West Wing, one of the episodes that I just love to hate, one of the Supreme Court justices dies, and it's a like conservative stalwart, and Jed Bartlett, who is a Democrat on the show, wants to replace it with a liberal justice, and like the conservatives are like, no, it was, and people are like, oh, the norms are blah 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 blah. So instead, they convince another liberal justice to retire and then replace him with a very conservative one, so that they can maintain the balance on the court. And
wow, okay.
So
it's everybody's happy. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. So perfect. That's one of my favorite episodes from West Wing, being just like showing how fucking stupid Aaron Sorkin is. And also, reminder that Aaron Sorkin last summer wrote a full editorial arguing that the Democrats should have an open primary at the convention where they should nominate Mitt Romney as their candidate. Yep. So we do love Aaron Sorkin.
What do you think's rattling around in that guy's head?
Cocaine, or the effects of years of cocaine use. Because the good seasons of West Wing, or at least where it was like an entertaining show, are when he was like using heavy, and then when he kind of had to step away from the show because he actually got in trouble.
I didn't know there were like coke seasons of West Wing.
There actually are, and then I believe he got caught in an airport with like a suitcase full of cocaine, like at one point. God. So he had to like go to rehab, I think, and then like he got replaced, and then the show got real bad. And anyway, I don't know why we're talking about the West Wing so much, because it's still
that's fascinating to me. I really had no idea. That's like hearing it's obviously it's like hearing about Tim Allen being like a drug smuggler at some point in his career, or like but just the idea that a show that like mundane had some kind of could have gone further and further and further into a crazy like coke spiral, and they elect like a psycho clown president or something.
It does feel like a liberal's fantasy all the way through.
Yeah, totally.
And what's funny is it's like it was reported many times that throughout the entire Obama administration, up and down, they all loved West Wing. They were all huge West Wing fans. And they saw themselves as basically being on an episode of West Wing. So I think that sort of it's an interesting show to study for that reason, and that's why I like this YouTube video.
Yeah, that's like that psychology of the like super outspoken liberal who doesn't actually want to take any big wins is such
who just believes in the power of argument and goodness that is innate to everyone, that we can just find that in each other and like work it out, but we don't have any actual beliefs. We're just gonna
Yeah, I think it's sort of fundamental to that whole thing where they love telling stories. What was that movie? What was came out last year about the end of the world, and it had did it have Julia Roberts in it? It's something like the world we leave behind or some shit. What was that movie called? Ethan.
Was it Ethan Hawke movie?
Ethan Hunt, Julia Roberts, right? Weren't they the couple in it?
Well, Ethan Hunt is the name of the character in Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible
Yeah,
guy.
I was gonna say.
Ethan, what's his name?
That's Tom Cruise.
Hawke.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke.
Leave the world behind.
Leave the world behind.
Little gay ghost
leave the world behind.
Chat.
So that was speaking of that kind of like that particular kind of like liberal fantasy or whatever. Not that that's a fantasy movie. It's about the end of the world. But it's a very, very liberal like movie in that it is fundamentally. So there's a moment in that movie where two things are happening in two different places, and one of them is Julia Roberts is being confronted with the fact that she's like having this monologue where she's like, look, I did everything right. I did everything, I used the paper straws. I got the free range chicken, and still look where we are. But and look, the second everything goes bad, of course I turn into, I just want to protect my family. Like that's of course that's what happens.
And very like crash politics, right? Of like everyone's a little bit racist. It's like you would become a monster too. Yeah.
And then at the exact same time, Ethan Hawke is having a situation where he's having to like beg his like doomsday prepper neighbor for some medicine for his kid, and he's like, you were right this whole time. And it really it all feels like the most perverse liberal fantasy, because it's the fantasy of getting to abandon the sense of society, sense of mutual obligation, getting to abandon it completely.
I'm laughing at Pat Bix in the chat. Thank you. Great first time chat. That movie was executive produced by the Obamas, which is what they're doing now. That's what they're doing now. In this day and age, they're running a production studio. Michelle's got a podcast. I see the clips. They're producing movies. It's
fundamental to that mindset to be like, yeah, I'm liberal, but listen, I think we all know if the shit goes
Thank you for the follow, Patrick.
I gotta turn into Chuck Norris or whatever. Like, I think we all know that, like that's like part of it for them. And it's so weird. It's so weird that's such a central tenet to it.
Did you see the, what was the one with, God, what's her name from Glow? And I think, it was like, it's not called The Hunt, but it was.
Or
was it called The Hunt?
I think it might have been called Ethan Hunt. It's called Hunting Ethan.
Yeah, it is. It's called The Hunt, and there's also a Danish movie called The Hunt with Mads Mikkelsen from a long time ago. But it's Betty Gilpin, yeah, and Ike Barinholtz is in it too, and that's a sort of similar where it's a satire about like.
This is the one where the conservatives were like, look, they're just straight up saying they want to hunt us or whatever, and then you watch it and it's 100% a satire on like just sort of, I don't know. It's a satire of like what was seen as the liberal status quo at the time.
Right. Yeah, and so it ages like milk now to think about or consider to go watch. Yeah, watch it.
I haven't watched it since it came out, and I remember thinking like, I think my thought on that movie was that the satire wasn't that good, and the action wasn't that good either.
See, I thought the satire wasn't that good and the action was decent. And I like Betty Gilpin, I think. But I agree, though, that the satire really fell flat and was not... Yeah, I'm actually... What did I rate that one? I gave that a 2.5 star. Yeah, that's not a great rating for The Hunt.
Sounds like a 2.5. Sounds like a 2.5 to me.
It's a 2.5-er. Yeah, well, I mean, Howell, we could just keep talking about the movie business forever, but I made you watch a 3.5-hour movie, so we should talk about it.
What's your I mean, do you do like a summary of the movie? How do we dive in?
I'm glad you asked, because my belief is that look at the Wikipedia page if you want the plot breakdown or to go in order. We're just going to talk about our whole experience watching the movie. What was your overall reaction? So you watched it in 2 sittings. Did you like the movie, Howell?
I loved the movie. I really did. I think. I mean, I'll just say it's a movie that it seems like everybody loves it, and there's good reasons for that. It is really. I mean, it's fucking great.
I would say it's one of those.
Yes, it's my first time sitting down to watch the movie. I'm sure I've seen parts of it on TV before, stuff like that, and clips and all that stuff.
I would say that it's a movie that everyone should see. It's one of those all-time classic movies. It's like The Godfather, like Wizard of Oz, like these movies that are like, and also that's sort of the idea of this show, of the movies that we want to watch, is why it's perfect for it. Is that these are movies that, you know. And Howell, I should actually speak to part of your bona fides for movies, is that you are the producer for the very popular and wonderful Flophouse podcast.
Yeah.
And you know, there's Flophouse and How Did This Get Made and things like that, or you know, that are interested in, and I am too. I love those types of shows. The bad movies are the movies that are maybe don't work for a variety of reasons. That's always fun to talk about. But I wanted to sort of. Let's look at the movies that we know that people are already. Nobody's going to argue with you, and you're like, "This is the best movie ever." It's like, well, yeah, it's Seven Samurai.
yeah, totally. And I will say, as a member of the Flophouse team, and as a person who watches a lot of bad movies and streams bad movies and talks about bad movies a lot and loves bad movies, if you listen to the Flophouse. And I know some people don't always make it all the way to the end of an episode of a podcast. Sometimes that happens. At the very end of every episode of the Flophouse, all 3 hosts and whoever is guesting will recommend a movie that they genuinely love, either recent or with Elliot. It's oftentimes some Czech New Wave or something older. And those recommendations are really good, and you could just follow those recommendations and watch nothing but great movies, because they all also really, really like good movies. Elliot has insanely good taste in movies. Stuart has great taste, slightly more fun, more recent taste in movies. But
I mean, I feel like there's almost like the more that you become interested in the higher art, like how high can I go? How artsy can I go? How intellectual can I go? That almost makes you then have the inverse, like, okay, and now how low can I go? Like, when you get off on going to the one extreme, then where can I find the other extreme as well? Can be a lot of fun, I imagine.
Yeah, well, it probably helps you. I mean, watching the high art stuff probably helps you watch the low shit,
right?
Because it's accident, as is like talked about a lot. Something that happens with low is it accidentally becomes art,
right?
But and that's I think that's a feature of what makes movies what they are, and how great they are. And that's something that I really love about movies, is even a bad movie, even or a movie that is accidentally bad, at some point it has to be sort of filtered through the mind of either a maniac or a really dumb guy, and that makes it oftentimes that makes movies very, very fun, even when they are misguided, even when they are they were a mistake to make. But about this one in particular, I had never seen it. As you asked if I had any blind spots. I knew this one was a blind spot.
You gave me
It's
3
something
amazing options too. They were
Yeah.
all I was like, I love all these options. I'm going to be happy to do any of them because the other ones were Sunset Boulevard and 12 Angry Men, I believe.
Yeah.
And those are all great.
I need to watch both of those also. I think this one, probably the fact that I would have to sit down and watch a 3.5 hour movie is part of why I haven't watched it. And also I think maybe there's a thing with me where I'm less inclined to watch the thing that everybody agrees is good, that everybody talks about a lot. I just kind of would rather find my
Dig a bit
own
deeper
weird thing,
be the first one to like, or, just like find this random corner, and be like, whoa, has anybody seen this thing? As opposed to that's Seven Samurai. Of course, it's amazing. Yeah.
That instinct is definitely there in me, and it kind of informs some of my viewing choices. Of course, I did find this kind of what's interesting about a watch of this is it's very hard to approach it from a pure standpoint because it is a movie that is a huge influence on just the language of how movies have been made since.
Yeah.
And you've seen 100,000 facsimiles of it in other people's work. I watched I didn't even realize until I started watching it. I was like, oh yeah, like a year ago I watched The Magnificent Seven.
Yep, we got to talk about it.
One. Mm-hmm. It's and that movie is a really, really good time.
Yes, it's entertaining.
It's not as good as Seven Samurai,
yes.
But it's got a great cast and it's a good time and it looks awesome. It's
Yeah, I would argue that where it falls short from being as nearly as good of a movie is because it is 2 hours long and because it is shorter and they really shortchange a lot of that 7. It's really like the Magnificent 3 and then also 4 other guys are there too. Whereas opposed to this one, I really feel like they really take the time to give each of these guys a unique personality and you understand like the role they play of these 7.
Yeah, it is a...
But Yul Brynner's amazing in it, especially. He's awesome.
Yeah. So as far as just watching it and just taking it in as a movie, it's hard to not be like, oh, right, they're introducing this guy because he's this type of guy in this type of movie. It's hard to not like have moments like that when you're watching it. But I will say the movie, and this speaks to, I guess, its timelessness. It does overcome all of that. It does, like, you at a certain point, and I really found this hit me pretty hard, was like at a certain point you're watching real people go through a real event. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know.
They really burnt those buildings down. Phenomenal. They really were out in the, I mean, it was fake rain, but it was still water. It was still wet. It was as real as it could be. Having to run around in that mud. I will say, speaking of like, you're watching this movie and it's hard to separate its cultural influence. I chose to rewatch this last Sunday, which was May the 4th be with you.
Oh,
and because I feel like this is a perfect movie to watch on that day, as George Lucas in particular. I mean, really that entire generation of big directors that are all friends with each other. George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, big time, all very, very directly influenced by Kurosawa, especially Seven Samurai. And there's a lot of the... and so a lot of the plot elements of Star Wars are actually taken from another Kurosawa film called The Hidden Fortress, which is a bit of a deeper cut, but I think is still a lot of fun. It also has Toshiro Mifune in it. The tone of it and
which guy was that? The guy you just
Toshiro is the guy in this GIF here. He's Kikuchio. Toshiro Mifune.
Oh yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he is widely regarded as the best Japanese actor of all time, basically. I mean, I think that's pretty fair to say. I was watching, I got to watch a lot of Criterion special features this week, guys. I was in heaven. And
nice.
I watched a video of this woman, this biographer of Toshiro Mifune, talking about his career, and in the 80s, and this would be years after like sort of his like heyday of being young and hot and stuff, and he had been more of a playing a type of like a noble kind of guy, which is funny because in this movie he's the cut up, he's the goofball.
Yeah.
And he sort of aged into being like the very wise like samurai. And actually the original Shogun miniseries, he played the lead role. That is played
Okay.
by crap, I can't think of his name. Hiroyuki Sanada, the new one, which I love, the new Shogun. So he had a
I have not watched that
he had a
yet.
great international career. Toshiro, he was used a lot. He got to have like a career in the West and stuff, and still do Japanese movies. And in the 80s was named Mr. Japan or something, like the most Japanese man. He was like the Japanese ideal of a man. And
the most Japanese man.
yeah, he was just like such a icon. He really was, every bit like a James Dean or Paul Newman, or like the biggest movie stars you can think of America. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was even beyond that, both him and Takashi Shimura, who played Kanbei, the old leader of the samurai.
The leader, he was incredible. I think that was probably
those
my
two were like
in the movie.
This era of Kurosawa. They're his most frequent collaborators and stars. Mm-hmm. There's a long stretch in here. The previous film that Akira Kurosawa made before this was the very first film we covered on this chat show, called Ikiru, which is actually the only movie during the stretch from like 1948 to 1963 or so that, and Kurosawa made like over a dozen movies during that time. He was crazy prolific during this time. Mm-hmm. And only one of them didn't have Toshiro Mifune in it, and it was Ikiru, which is a story about, I mean, it's a beautiful film. It's about an old man who finds out he's dying, and he sort of is just grappling with how to make an impact, and he's an old bureaucrat, and this is a contemporary film. And
gotcha. Okay.
He's an old bureaucrat who works in the public works department, and it's kind of a bit of a satire of Japanese sort of bureaucracy and corporate sort of culture. And the sort of, it's a do-nothing kind of office where like people get shunted about. And then he suddenly decides, well, I'm going to help this group of mothers who have come in because there is an open sewage like spot in their neighborhood, and they want to build a playground. Yeah, and it actually is basically the premise of Parks and Rec as well. The original, like what Parks and Rec at the beginning was about. And then so it's it's got a cool structure. It takes a big jump, time jump like in the middle, and it's just a really gorgeous, beautiful film. And then this was what came after, and it's like, basically Akira Kurosawa was like, I'm going to make my ultimate movie. I'm going to make the most like biggest ultimate. And sorry, I don't want to talk too much because we should chat. This should be an exchange.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting time in the culture as well when this comes out, we should say. 1954. So we are, less than 10 years post-war. And we're only a few years post American occupation of Japan, which during that time, there was a lot of control over what movies could be released, like what could be covered. And they didn't want to have samurai movies during that time because a lot of the sort of, in the 30s and 40s, when samurai was a very popular genre, there was some sort of, you could kind of see a sort of nationalist tone of doing it sort of way, because it's about like the old traditions and about all this sort of total devotion to a master, a daimyo type of thing. And this marked a huge transition point for samurais because they had sort of fallen out of favor now post-war after people have gotten disillusioned with that. And I feel like Kurosawa really reinvented the samurai movie with this to make it less focused on sort of the civil wars and the battles and things like that, and more on the individual and about the Ronin, which is a masterless samurai, and sort of their humanity and like... and it became about like how they actually live their code of honor through their actions as individuals. And they're frequently up against the system. Last week's episode was Harakiri, which is by the same screenwriter, not the same director. And that's a movie about seppuku, slicing up in your belly.
Slicing open your belly in shame. Yes,
and that is really, really pointedly about, like, indicting the whole system. And the whole, like, honor code system of samurai and how it fails humans, I feel. And then this movie is in a similar vein, but it's more optimistic. It's more about the good of humans, sort of, and finding the good in humanity. Okay, I talked for too long and interrupted.
Yeah. No,
but that's just like sort of the background. Good. Yeah.
No, that's all stuff that I mean, again, literal blind spot. I know so little about this. I know so little about this this time, and this and Japanese film of this era, and what it was saying, and what it had. There is something that a question that raises in me is, in this movie, the samurai definitely are. You get the impression that samurai are, at this time that the film is portraying, kind of outcasts or separate from society or distrusted, at least by like farmers.
Right. So what it is
that always the case with samurai, or is that a thematic thing that they chose because they had to sort of reinvent the samurai after they weren't allowed to do nationalistic films for a while?
So they did do an actual, the screenwriter talks about this in one of the documentaries I watched, is that they did do a lot of research as to what would happen. So this purposefully takes place before Harakiri. I think this is in the 16th century, when this was a period of a lot of civil wars. Versus, right, various daimyos and lords or whatever, and then they would lose their land or whatever, they'd lose the war, these little skirmishes, and then all those samurai that served them would then be shit out of luck. And Japan, even now, but especially back then, it was very, very class-based, and at this time, there's class mobility doesn't exist. Like, it's not a thing. And samurais are a warrior class that they're sort of above everybody in a way. They are the only people that are permitted to travel, to have swords, to be armed. That's actually, if you see somebody with a sword, they're a samurai, or they stole it from someone, in the case of Kikuchiyo. And
right, yeah. Isn't that the thing with him, is that they initially, they're like, he's not really a samurai or whatever.
But I would argue that, like, so his journey is, because, like, by the end, they're like, he's as much a samurai as any of us. And I think that that's sort of the beauty of the movie, is, this guy who they think is just a goof and a clown proves himself through his actions, just to be one of the best of them. It's such a good performance.
He gets the most heroic death out of it.
When he's prepping all his swords and he's putting them like all gathered, he's got them. They're like, why are you putting all these swords? He's like, I can't. He's like, I need to take out 5 of these. I can't do it with one sword or whatever. He's like, set a goal for himself. So he's like taking out swords from the ground that he's prepped for himself. Really, really cool. But it's also strange because then, when they don't have a master, there's a number of things they could do. They can go and stay at a Buddhist temple. They can, a lot of them are artisans, poets. In Harakiri, the main character becomes an umbrella maker. He makes umbrellas, which is kind of cool. And the other thing that they would do is that they would, this era of instability and civil wars was also, a lot of just rampant crime, just like bands of raiders and bandits and whatnot. And they could, like, a samurai would be given a bed and food to protect the village for the night or whatever. And so they sort of extrapolated from that this whole scenario of, like, this entire, just this whole setup of, and Kurosawa sort of treated that as the time to kind of, and that sort of tension of, we need them, but can we totally trust them? What is their real deal? I think it's a lot about it, and that's mutual, right? Because the samurai feel the same way about the farmers of the village. They also don't trust them, for a
Right.
variety of reasons. And I that's very intentional. I think it's a lot about, and again, thinking about the time it came out, about moving forward as best you can, just by helping your neighbor type of thing, just helping the person in front of you. I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. In the midst of all that, I remembered a movie I watched. I think last year. I think I watched this on screen at a local place that shows that shows a lot of old movies and but Onibaba. Have you watched?
Oh yeah.
I assume you've seen that.
Yes. I love Onibaba.
I think there's a Criterion for that, right?
Yeah, Onibaba and Kuroniko, which are the same director. He made them one after another, and they're pretty similar. Actually, they're two really good ghost stories. I love Japanese ghost stories. One of my favorite Japanese movies is called it's spelled Kwaidan, pronounced Kaidan.
Okay.
And that's just an anthology film of 4 Japanese ghost stories, and each one's told in a different kind of style, and they're really, really cool. A beautiful film.
Because I feel like that one seemed like a bit another one where it's like rural people sort of not trusting like soldiers that have come through because it's always a problem. You know,
Yes.
It's like,
well,
like you're separate from even your own nation's soldiers, quote unquote soldiers or whatever. You're separate from them because they can take whatever they want from you.
I
right?
mean,
Like
you're
that
at the
felt like real
mercy
freedom.
of is
Yeah.
it a good cop or a bad cop, right? I mean, is it a good samurai
Right.
or a bad samurai? And I think that this is sort of about elevating, the good in people and how they can try to find each other and help. And but yeah, that was a real concern. I mean, the whole plot point in this movie of hide your daughters, basically, right? That there is a perception that, and it's a perception for a reason, that they're samurai, that these samurai are hungry and desperate, and they might come upon a farmhouse and take crops, take what they want, and maybe worse.
Right.
And
yeah.
so but at the same time, they're the fiercest warriors. They're the only game in town that are for hire, and they are.
Right.
They're looking for a lord or something like that.
Was this an original story idea
Yes.
in the script?
And
Or-
in
okay,
fact,
right.
the writing of this was another really fascinating thing in the documentary. It was a part of, there's an old Japanese series that they did called It Is Wonderful to Create. And they did an episode, and it's about Akira Kurosawa, and every episode is about a different movie. And so each Criterion has like that episode about that movie. And so one of my favorite things is getting to watch each of those the Criterions. And so I watched the one for Seven Samurai last night, and the screenwriter, I want to actually say his name, Shinobu Hashimoto, who also wrote Harakiri, a lot of other classics. He tells the story. He also wrote Ikiru, Rashomon, Throne of Blood, Hidden Fortress, Bad Sleep Well, Sword of Doom, Samurai Rebellion, which also kicks ass. I love Samurai Rebellion. So yeah, he's really prolific, and him, Kurosawa, and Hideo Aguni, who was sort of like a producer, and the way they talked about the writing style was crazy, but they locked themselves in this like cabin or whatever you want to call it, in a room, and they stayed there for 45 days, and they hashed out the whole story. And it was like, it seemed like Hashimoto would first write it, give it to Kurosawa, he would complain about this and that and this, and like, why don't you, come on, this sucks, and then he would rewrite it, taking in what he said, show it to Akira Kurosawa, and he would say, "Oh, this is good. Why don't you do it like this from the beginning?" Then he would show it to the other guy, and the other guy would kind of be like, "Okay, yes, we'd keep this." And that was sort of, and it took them 45 days, and they conceived it's sort of based in, but it's not based in any kind of, pre-existing story. It was original
folklore tale about farmers, rising up against.
There are other films that are kind of similar, and that I can think of. There's one that I love. It's called Three Outlaw Samurai, which is about these sort of, which is a sort of condensed Seven Samurai, which is like a smaller town that's also being mistreated, and they hire these samurai, but they're kind of outlaw samurai. But anyway, that was fun. And then Sanjuro, which is the sequel to Yojimbo, is a sort of similar setup. It's the same character from Yojimbo, whose name is Sanjuro, just to make it confusing. And he kind of goes to a town where there's a bunch of samurai that are trying to. There's a corrupt magistrate that runs their town, and they're trying to figure out the best way. And he's very clever, and so he has all his schemes and ways that they can sort of oppose this corruption. And so I like. So it's a theme for sure, but all those movies came after this. I mean, this changed the game. This was immediately huge in Japan and huge internationally. It was like. Rashomon sort of was the first to put Japan on the international film scene, like in a major way, where it won the Venice Film Festival, I believe, Rashomon. And then so Seven Samurai though was just huge immediately. It's like you say, it's all up there on the screen. It's all like you get overwhelmed by it at a certain point of the scale of it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have gotten. That's the thing about watching it in two parts, breaking at the intermission, over the course of 2 nights. Is I don't actually know if I might have gotten a little like weary in a single soul watch through. But I guess that's also kind of a subjective and time dependent thing. Like it sort of depends. If you're able to sit there and watch it, maybe it's
carve the time out for yourself. Yeah, I think. I mean, this got a 4K re-release last year, and that's a Criterion I very proudly own. But it played movie theaters, and I went to Baltimore, and I saw it at the Charles Theater in Baltimore with some friends, and it was an amazing theater experience. I mean, it was just to experience people laughing at the jokes and being awed and like all this sort of stuff. 80 years later, 70 years later. It's incredible. I mean, it's just such a movie that just cuts across everything, and it's because it was such a real labor. It was the most expensive movie by far in Japan at the time it was released. It went way over budget. Took way longer time. It was over a year that they were filming. There's a really funny bit where the costume designer in the documentary is talking about how one of the samurai, I forget the actor that it would have been, I think it was Daisuke Kato, who plays Shichiroji, who's like the sort of second in command that already knows Kanbei. And he was like excited because it's like, oh, it's a summer shoot and I'm wearing like not very much, and so it'll be nice. By the time they got to the final battle, that's raining and mud everywhere, it's February. It is the dead of winter. They are, Kurosawa is in the mud with them, and apparently he got frostbite on his toes. And his toenails fell off because they were dead. Right. He was walking around in sandals on this cold mud. So as they're running across,
they are not wearing much.
And then she's and especially Mifune, who has his full ass out the whole movie, and it's beautiful.
Bare ass the entire movie. Incredible.
What an ass. Ass. I mean, and what legs too. Seriously. I mean, it's really on display in this movie in a big way.
That surprised me. I do want to jump back just a second. We were talking about the script, and the thing that a thing of note that I will say about the movie, or something that really stuck in my mind as I was watching it was, it is really I think one thing that a lot of movies that seem to try to emulate this or have tried to be sort of a similar thing or the same thing over the course of the last 70 years, whatever.
Zack Snyder made a remake last year. We can get into that. Sorry.
Well, we watched for the Flophouse. We watched the Rebel Moon movies, and I saw those, and there's
good, right?
They're great. They're really great. There's a sense of wanting to wanting to tell this story, but keep it simple, but keep it dumb, to where if you pick it up at any point, you can go, oh, that's the bad guy. Oh, that's the, oh, that's this guy. Oh, that's that. Like these are the archetypes. These are the tropes we're doing. And it's always so obvious what we're doing. But everything else is just sort of hammered together as quickly or conveniently as possible. And this movie, it never like stops to go, okay, here's the deal. Like it doesn't seem to do that. Instead, what it does is it has like I don't know, 90 short scenes in sequence where every scene one development happens, or one relationship between two characters
is formed,
gets formed a little bit more. And it's just like, it's this kind of, I don't know, I know so little about this era, I know so little about this director, but it's like, it feels like a much more incremental type of storytelling, where it's just like, we got to do this now, we got to do this now, we got to do this now. And maybe the fact that it really seems to build towards a few smaller, shorter action sequences. The action sequences are huge and they're impressive and they're messy and muddy and like a lot of stuff happens in them. But it's like so much more of it is these quiet moments that a lot of stuff happens very incrementally. Like that was something I noted about the storytelling and something I found very effective about the storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real like show don't tell type of thing, in that, I mean, this is a movie I think that's about like actions. It's about the actions that you can like take for other people. And so yeah, the way that we're introduced to characters, I mean, the first two samurai that we meet, or I can't remember, maybe it's the young one, I can't remember, but when we are introduced to Kanbei, he is all these people are gathered around him and they're really excited because he's shaving his head. And this is a big thing because going back to Harakiri, it's a big plot point where that characters get their top knots cut off, right? And hair is really important to the samurai, actually. The hair is a symbol. It's like, your top knot is like, that's your battles or whatever. And so shaving your head is not something that a samurai that would be very concerned about, their perception or their station or whatever would do. And I think so that introduction to him shaving his head so that he can pretend to be a priest because this baby is being held hostage by this maniac or something in this house. And so he pretends to be the priest to go in and trick the guy, and then he swords him. It's really cool, actually. That's
humble and a hero, and revealed in a way that
and it's nobody's like, this is what's happening, blah 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 blah. It's like but it's so tense, and it's so like, why is he doing that? What's happening? Why is it that you're really drawn in? And that's also how we meet Kikuchiyo, the Toshiro Mifune character. He's watching and he's kind of like, yeah, he's like loving it. And he's like introduced as kind of like a clown, and then later is like a drunk, and but also he's the best. And but like, or the one that samurai that is, they come upon him having a duel, and they see him win this really awesome duel, and they're like, he's got to be on board. And it is just like a great getting the gang together sequence. I really, really love when they're gathering the samurai.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to see why that became such a part of just the like language of telling particularly an action movie story or a Western story is like.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's in an odd way, Seven Samurai leads to The Expendables, If you think about it.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. The original Expendables, they're calling it now. American release, it's got the title, The Original Expendables.
Back to the violence that is shown in this film. I mean, so I got to learn terms this week because I already know Jigaideki means period film. And some people interpret Jigaideki as meaning specifically samurai films, but it actually refers to all movies that take place in like the past, basically pre Japan opening itself to the West kind of thing. And there's a lot of interesting ways in which that like influenced Japanese culture, like that moment. But the violence. So there's chambara films, which are the swordplay films, which are just like, and as soon as Japan was making films, they were making films where like the silent movies where swords were just flapping at each other. I mean, like people loved that shit. Obviously, you would imagine. So there's a long tradition of that, and it's also based a lot in kabuki theater, the popular theater form of Japan, so it's very stylized and very choreographed, and the violence here is choreographed, but he was really trying to make it like visceral. Like when somebody gets stabbed with a spear, like you both feel that person get it, and you see like the person that stabbed them too, like really like take in that they like took a life by stabbing somebody with a spear. In a way that's really cool.
No, I felt that quite a bit throughout it. It's a really like and also just like the battle aspects of it are very good. How you feel sort of the landscape the whole time. You're aware of every like hill that surrounds them, and like how that's a barrier or it's I don't know. I think the battle parts of it are very effective for what feels like a kind of limited scope in the aspect that it's in. It's I did kind of find myself wishing for more space at times.
So
but that's just the way
I think that what
the
they
ratio
ended
they
up.
or whatever.
So how they had to film the big action scenes as well as the big fire scenes. Durand, thank you so much for shouting out those lines when Kikuchio saves the baby from the burning building at one point, and then he's crying and he says, "This baby is me," because we find out his whole past, that he was a farmer that because of samurai violence like lost his whole family, was an orphan, and basically has been just bumming around ever since, and that sort of explains a lot of how he got to be how he is. And yes, the actor that played Kanbei,
that sequence blew me away. That absolutely I mean, it's so simple, but it worked so well.
And there's such a range in his character. To have his character be the one to sort of have that, like, you need him, like, he's the anchor of, like, the film, and the emotional anchor of the film, where Takashi Shimura is, like, sort of the leader of the group in this, like, upstanding way. He's the one that really... And he's also the closest. So the thing that I really love when I
definitely need to see Akiru I was already sold.
I did mean to say that he plays Akiru. He plays
the main guy.
Fuck, I forget the character's name. His name is not Akiru. Akiru means to live. I always forget the character's name that he plays. So.
That's like calling the old guy an up, which is fine. I think you call
it's
him
up, man. But we sort of referenced earlier that they don't just make the villagers, helpless, sympathetic characters necessarily. Like they're defenseless. They need help, but they actually show that they're pretty, craven, and one of the main villagers that goes to hire the samurai, when he gets back, he makes his daughter cut off all her hair and pretend to be a boy because he's afraid that,
he's afraid they're gonna have
the samurai are gonna be just whatever. And also, women were in a very vulnerable position at the time. This is also a plot point in Harakiri, which talked about the last episode, where he's worried. The main character has a daughter, and he's worried for her because men are like, "Hey, sell me your daughter so that I can marry her and make her my concubine or whatever." And he's like, "Oh shit!" And he has to find her like somebody that's going to take care of her. So it's a really it's a tough time.
I think there are a couple. I mean, it's typical, I think, in a Western thing to be like or I've seen it more. I've obviously seen a lot of in Westerns. I've seen a lot of like heroes that like people don't really trust. You're
right.
Like, this guy will save your farm, but you don't want him alone with your daughter. That's like a very like that's a common thing. And so I wasn't surprised to see that in this movie. There are moments of nuance and moments of just understanding the complexity of life without necessarily moralizing too much about good and evil. That is notable in this movie. I I think it's interesting in the first scene when the what are the bandits, right?
Yeah, you
They're
can just call them
they're called
bandits.
When the bandits are just like, well, let's just take all their rice again or whatever, and they're like, well, if we take their rice again, they're basically done for. So let's come back when their barley is ready. Well, they you know, like they
When we
say
can get
something
everything,
that basically
yeah.
means let's not kill this cow. Let's
Right.
let's keep them around.
And there
that's
was,
like, I think that's way more. That's so much more of like so much more of a real type of motivation than what is often the case in this type of movie. And I just mean like in a big movie like this, where the villains or whoever is the menace is like, well, wipe them out.
yeah, good assumption. Durand's
that type of shit.
saying that it's very possible those bandits are also former samurai who are masterless, and this is what they're doing to survive. It's very possible. There was a scene that was cut from the screenplay that originally the very first scene was going to be those bandits raising another village, and it was going to open with that them destroying one village, then coming to the next one, and then saying, well, let's come back to this one, and sort of making so you have that context of, well, we're all ransacked out, let's come to this one later.
You're just like tired.
We already ransacked one village.
Yeah.
But Kurosawa wanted to get right into the action. But the villagers aren't inherently sympathetic, and a big thing that is revealed is that, one of these villagers, and it's funny because Kikuchio's like, look, we have all this armor, it's so amazing, like they have all this armor that this guy collected, and the samurai are like stone faced. They are so upset because that meant that the farmers, either killed samurai in the fields or stole from them, and that's considered, very, like, as a samurai, like, your armor, your sword, your weapons are like really like meaningfully a part of you. So it's not something that somebody is supposed to be able to just take. You're supposed to be buried with that and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. There's so much natural conflict between everyone, between the samurai and between themselves and between them and the farmers. We can just go ahead and say, like, at the end, the fact that it is completely they're just the farmers are just like, all right, get out of here. They go on.
Yeah. The end of the movie, the last scene of the movie is
we paid our debt
amazing.
to you. We fed you all this time, and and everybody's sacrificed for this outcome. So see ya.
Yeah, the young one doesn't get to have his lovely lady, even though they sort of love each other, but like, he can't marry a farmer. Like, that's not available to him. Like, it's not those are different classes. So like, once this whole experience is done, there's, well, okay, goodbye. And then that's the really great interaction because so Kanbei and his sort of second in command guy, when he first meets him, they're like, oh, we fought a lot of wars together, we've lost a lot of wars together. And so he says, you didn't lose this one at the end. And he's like, well, but it wasn't, we didn't win it though. Like, we didn't win. Right. They won. Right. Like, they are the ones that won. And like, this is part of what being selfless is, like selflessly helping someone. Is then at the end, that's what selflessness is. And we've lost 4 of the 7 samurai. But
yeah, so not a victory for him, but a victory for the farmers. I think that is it's a very deep. It feels very deep. Feels very heavy to have that at the end of the movie. And it's sad. It's genuinely like very sad that this had to happen. Even though you're watching the farmers go about their lives without having the rest of them be killed, and and that's good.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's funny to like focus on this thing at the end. Or not funny. It's not funny, but it is like it's just again, it just feels deep. It feels nuanced. It feels real.
Right.
It feels like a situation that honestly seems plucked from reality. It sounds that's why I was a little bit surprised to hear that it's not a folk tale. It's not a historical event of some kind. because it does feel like there's a real sense of not trying to make this turn out super good for anybody.
Yeah,
not give anybody the power fantasy that they might want. If you're writing a samurai movie, maybe there's a part of you that wants to be a badass samurai, and there's not really, the baddest ass is the guy with his ass out the whole movie, who is not a hero at the beginning, and is dead at the end. It's like, I don't know, it's
right. And I also love the moment because he's the last one to die. He dies defeating the very last bandit. He takes a gunshot, and before he dies, he manages to stab the very last bandit. And then the young samurai, whose name I just call him the young one, is a really beautiful moment where he's like, he sees that he's dead. He's like, where are they? He's like so upset. He's like, let me at him, kind of thing. He's like, where are the bandits? And they're like, they're all gone. They're all dead. That's it. And it's like, you have all this rage, and it's like the anticlimax of that is really, it hits you hard.
He's like at the start, the young one's like a volunteer at the beginning, right?
So
he's just like trying to be.
So what it is
like
that he is from a upper class family and has left to become a samurai. He wants to become a samurai, and they're trying to dissuade him of that for obvious reasons, and that's why they don't want to let him come along. But he is able to do that. That's also why at the part where they're because a very crucial, sorry, we haven't even talked about this yet. A very crucial part of this movie is the distinction of rice versus millet, and how they have been paying the samurai. I mean, they pay them in food. They pay them in rice. But
and they eat millet.
Millet is like the byproduct of harvesting rice that you feed as animal feed, kind of, is what it's typically used for, I think. And so, it's not as, doesn't have as much nutritional value and content. So, they want their samurai strong, so the samurai get the rice, and that's how they're paying them. That's how they basically. And at one point, all the rice gets stolen, and then the young samurai very discreetly gives them money to go buy more rice because he's upper class and he has the money. So
is it and this is one of the things that they don't I think it's cool to have a lot of things like this that you don't know when you're watching it, because
you get the sense of it. It doesn't necessarily get spilled out so obviously. I mean, I really only finally put that all together again watching those documentaries. I was like, okay, I get that he was younger and he wanted to join, but then also the last part of he is from a higher class family as well.
So being from a higher class family, is that considered like a step down to be a samurai? I assume it is, right? Like
it kind of is, but it's it would have been something that maybe a family with a lot of sons, like maybe younger sons type of thing, because there's not much inheritance at that point. But also they are romanticized warrior poet type guys.
Right.
An interesting little tidbit. I don't know if it'll be interesting to anybody. That one of the most famous real life samurais who's been dramatized more than any other real guy, but I mean, he's just been written about in stories and all this kind of stuff. Guy named Musashi Miyamoto, or Miyamoto Musashi is how they would say it in Japan. And there's a trilogy of films starring Toshiro Mifune as Musashi Miyamoto, called the Samurai Trilogy, and they're all really good. But the warrior poet kind of character in this one, the one that they find at the duel, and he's also the one that turns out to sort of be just a really deeply, like, he has a real well of feelings that you come to see this guy. He has a really cool heart. Is like, that guy is directly based on Musashi Miyamoto. He's meant to represent that sort of archetype of, the warrior poet type of deal. And another thing that I love that sort of I'm embarrassed to say, that brought me to Kurosawa, was the video game Ghost of Tsushima, that had a mode in it called Kurosawa mode, where it would make it black and white, and it was actually really beautiful to like play this video game riding around, and had really cool atmospheric effects and of like petals falling all the time and stuff like that, and it would just look really, really cool. And I was like, I want to watch some Kurosawa. So soon after, that's what sort of got me going. But he is the GOAT. I mean, he is, I said on the last episode, the best director to ever come out of Japan. I mean, he is the king. It's like, he just, his influence is so large. He made 30 films in his career. Mm-hmm. I've seen, I think, 21 of them.
What was his what do you think, what would you say with your knowledge of it, what would you guess sort of is there any particular experience or any background that you think made him particularly adept at this kind of like telling a good story over this like amount of time and not fucking it up? Like what is there something, what was his how did it come up?
I think that actually part of why he translates internationally so well, and this is a little bit of a digression, I'll come back to this, but a real thing that annoys me is when people drop Kurosawa's name as trying to sound like a pretentious film person, because it's like, if you ever watched a Kurosawa film, they're the most entertaining movies ever. He's Japanese Steven Spielberg. Like, he was making movies to be entertaining. They are not difficult art films. I mean, especially these big ones. He did some that are more difficult.
Yeah, this one absolutely feels like a big blockbuster.
I said, it's like Lord of the Rings or something. Yeah. It's like, it's a big crowd pleaser. But he was heavily influenced. I mean, it's interesting you bring up Westerns. Obviously, this got turned into a Western. He was very influenced by Westerns. Kurosawa. John Ford is the person that he cited as one of his absolute always favorite directors, and he was a big director of Westerns. So, so there's a bit of that melding of East and West in his style. He also obviously had a lot of Japanese directors that he would apprentice under, and then when he became a director, and he first started making sort of action movies, the Sanshiro Sugata, which is a movie about a judo fighter. But yeah, they're difficult because they're in black and white, and because you have to read. That's really it. One of my favorite Kurosawa film is High and Low. That also stars Toshiro Mifune. But that's a contemporary one, and it's a crime thriller that is just one of the best crime procedural movies. Like, it is incredible. What was the name of that one again? High and Low.
High and Low.
It's a really cool.
Sounds awesome.
And Toshiro Mifune plays a character named Kingo, much like the Eternal. Kingo.
Oh, named Kingo?
Kingo Gondo. That's his character's name.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, and
another great Kingo in film.
Exactly, and there was a Kingo in Harakiri as well. It was the name of the baby that they have in Harakiri. They have a baby named Kingo.
Kingo Gondo. That's a great fucking name. God damn.
Well, and the really cool thing about High and Low is this year, Howell, there is a remake, an American remake, directed by Spike Lee, starring Denzel Washington. That is coming up this year. It's actually premiering out of competition at Cannes, and it's called Highest to Lowest, numeral 2. Highest to Lowest. Gotta love Spike.
Okay. Well, you know,
I mean, I'm excited for it. They just dropped a teaser for it this week, and it did look pretty cool. Well, Hal, I've kept you for a while here. I will say, I planned one thing. I put a lot of work into something. And then today I realized that it wasn't funny.
Oh no!
No, well, because I wanted to do a song parody for you, Howell, because you're such a good parodist. And I don't know if you are...
Hey, look, here's the thing about song parodies. Almost none of them are funny, and that's kind of what makes it funny, is that they all fucking suck. They suck so bad.
So Howell, I don't know.
I would say if you have doubts about it, that's because you're alive.
Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sing just a little bit of the chorus a cappella.
Please do. Please do.
I don't know if you're familiar with Prince and the New Power Generation at all.
Well, I am.
Okay.
Oh, I am.
So you might know this one. I'm just gonna acapella. Find 7 samurai in all to stand against nasty bandits looking to steal all of our rice harvest and our barley too. And now the old man's telling us to gather a crew. Find warriors now, pay them in rice. We will eat millet while they train us to fight. We'll survive. We need 7 samurai.
Holy shit. Oh my god.
And I did do the verses too, but the verses aren't funny. But I did write verses as well.
Yeah, you know what? You made the right choice because I'm impressed. I'm currently impressed.
If I had really committed to doing it 6 minutes long,
the second verse of it, I'd be like, all right, okay, all right.
Get out.
Yeah. No, that was great.
Thank you.
It was really great.
Thank you.
And it makes more sense than the original song, which is, you know, I mean, that happens sometimes in parody.
I learned from Genius
about something.
that song's about the 7 deadly sins, supposedly.
Yeah.
Which means it's got his crazy Jehovah's Witness religiousness in it as well. So yeah, don't dwell on it too much. Anyway, Howell, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to talk about 7 Samurai? Chris, I will say, Howell, please, you want a Japanese film recommendation? This is nothing makes me happier. Please reach out. Oh my god, I love Japanese film.
Yeah.
Recommend. I mean, and you know, the classic era, but new stuff as well. You know, have you ever seen the film? I think I might mention this film on every stream. Have you ever seen the film Cure by Kiyoshi Kurosawa? No relation.
Cure.
It's from 1997, I think. That is the best Japanese horror film, probably. That's an incredible film. I can't recommend that one enough. And the other one that I really love, and I mentioned is Tampopo. Have you ever seen Tampopo?
Oh, that sounds familiar.
It's about food. It's about a woman that wants to be a ramen chef. And she sets about becoming
this one. I did see this one.
Okay, yeah. That's a great one. That's a really, I mean, that director, I love all of his stuff. I might watch one of his movies tonight. Oh wait, no, I have a big hockey game I gotta watch.
I did have like a Miike phase where I was watching a lot of Takashi Miike.
Oh yes. Ichi the Killer, Audition.
That stuff. I tried to watch everything I could find of his.
He did a remake
the original
of Harakiri.
I saw the original Dead or Alive, and I was like, okay, I got to see everything this guy has made.
And he just announced a movie that he's working on. I just saw news about this with Charlie XCX Takashi Miike.
Oh, really?
So look forward to that collaboration. Yeah, I mean, it might be good.
Yeah, that's right. I think I said Miike, which is what I thought it was. I know people say Miike.
I've reading these names and stuff so much that I'm just committed to I'm gonna mispronounce some stuff. I'm just gonna just say
totally yeah.
I do want to watch 13 Assassins. That's one. Miike also did a remake of Harakiri, which is pretty good, and it stars Koji Yakusho, who is my favorite modern Japanese actor, who was also in a movie recently called Perfect Days, directed by Wim Wenders. So anyway, Japanese film. It's a wonderful tapestry. It's my favorite international film, like a country. If I had to watch only one country's films, Japan. And I'm not even a huge anime guy. I mean, like I like, you know, all the really classic stuff, but I haven't even really gone down that road.
I don't know. I think Spirited Away might be my only thing that I've dipped my toe in there.
I mean, you can't go wrong with any. Oh God, why am I blanking on his name? Please, somebody's gonna say it in chat. The Paprika and Perfect Blue, Tokyo Godfathers, and I'm blanking on his name. He's an somebody. Satoshi Kon, thank you, Source Force. Thank you.
There we go.
Satoshi Kon, you can't go wrong with those.
Had a feeling you could rely on.
I know. I was like,
for some anime.
They'll have me on this one. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Satoshi Kon, you can't go wrong with any of those. Those are all fantastic. That's why Source Force is a mod. That's true. Well, Hal, I won't keep you any longer. Wait, no, this was when I was just gonna play this. Oh, this nice Ryuichi Sakamoto. This is actually Ryuichi Sakamoto is a wonderful composer. You might know he's a great musician. He did also one of the best film scores that I love to a movie called Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. And that has a really great theme. But this is actually the theme from the PlayStation 2 video game, 7 Samurai 20XX. And this is the ending credits music for that. So it's a different 7 Samurai, but it's pretty. So I thought I would have it play.
Last thoughts on the film. I'll say the score fucking bangs.
Yes.
It's so good. I was really, there's a few bops in there which I was not expecting. And the sense of I don't know, it's really, really good at this I don't know, mounting sense of battle type of stuff. The sort of,
well, it's like you almost
relentless drum hitting throughout some otherwise quiet scenes is really, really effective.
So bring it back to Star Wars.
I thought the themes were great in it.
Yeah, bring it back to Star Wars. It's very John Williams, like Star Wars kind of at times with well, now I can't think of the music because I got this shit playing. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and also just that bump, 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 bump. It's great. It really they snapped on this one. This is one of the absolute very best
good movie.
I think controversial statement. Movie's good.
Movie's good.
Well, Howell, that will be it for this episode of the Gugu's Good Movie Chat About. It's been so great having you here. Obviously, everybody probably already does follow Big Howell Dawdy. You got Fast Track going on right now, or what? You got anything else you'd like to plug?
Yeah. Fast Track is happening. Where I believe I recorded an episode with Josiah a month and a half ago, and we're working on the music right now, but it's I'm waiting on some vocals.
It's the creative process, you know. It is what it is.
So Fast Track is ongoing. It's continuous, but the episodes are going to take how long they're going to take. It's kind of where I'm at with Fast Track right now. I'm recording an episode this coming week with a couple of people who are both named Jesse, and that one will be coming out. It should be coming out this month as well.
One of those, I believe, can really sing. I mean, both of them can sing, but one likes to show off, is what I mean.
Yeah, kind of somebody where you're like, well, I can't believe they can also sing as well as do all this other stuff, you know.
I do want to give a quick shout out to my cousin Kira in the chat. Hi Kira, I see you. I love you.
Hi Kira. So yeah, Fast Track is going on, which you can find anywhere you listen to. You can find the sort of first 20 minutes of every episode with a song. In anywhere you listen to podcasts, and then there will be an additional meat of the main episode available over on patreon.com/HowellDawdy. My Twitch is twitch.tv/BigHowellDawdy, which you just shouted out. And then I have a podcast called the Big Howl and Possum Podcast. That's a very short, very fun comedy podcast where I talk to a big possum.
That's great. Howell, you're the busiest man in show business. We love you. Also,
I don't feel like it. I lost one of my jobs, so I'm like, wow, I got all this time in my week.
Yeah, so, last week we were supposed to have a great episode here with Pat, and then capitalism reared its ugly head, and Pat's like, I don't know if I'm really want to do that, because that was like 2 days before the stream was supposed to be.
Having your shit get bought by like some creep.
I don't know. Having Doge go after all public broadcasting is also pretty bad. So you both are just at the whims of our nightmare present. So, but thank you so much for joining us. Everybody go support Howell. And yeah, we'll see you guys. I don't know who the guest is going to be next week or the movie, but just follow my socials or up here. And look out because we'll be here next week. And I got a really great guest lined up for 2 weeks from that too. And yeah, we're rolling. Howell, thank you so much again. I'm going to raid everybody into Ricky and the Dokathon. And
Dokathon!
so
Hell yeah.
enjoy that, and we will see you all next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
There's the goodbye screen. All right.
All right, man.
Wait, where? Yeah, okay. Like, I never know how raids work. This is all on stream right now. It doesn't matter. Okay, here we go.